Hello, I'm Georgina and I work with Taste Through Time. We are a group that specialises in women throughout history, from medieval through to World War II. One of our biggest specialties is actually the women that worked in World War II within the services, from the WVS and talking about rationing, the home front, evacuees, to the Forgotten Army, that is the Land Army. So Land Army originally started in World War I. And got disbanded soon afterwards, but when they saw that war was again on the horizon, the Land Army was brought back into fold and was started to be brought up in about June 1939, just before World War II started. The girls had an incredibly busy time of it, or a difficult time of it really, when a lot of farmers didn't think that they could actually do as much as the men could on the lands, because can they carry 25 kilos bags of potatoes, can they do the long hours, that sort of thing. And of course, with the mindset of the day, it was very much a case of the social aspect of women were there to have children and things, especially the younger generation. They worked so incredibly hard, to the point where it was down to them the fact that we didn't need to ration fruit or vegetables because of the amount that they actually worked. By 1943 it was one of the largest services that was around. Obviously it was the non-military version, working for on the land. Lady Denman, who brought up or thought up the Land Army, she was the president. She fought so hard for the girls in Parliament to try and get them holiday, because up until 1943 they didn't have any paid holiday. They'd got a pay rise, and they proved themselves the fact that they could work just as hard as the men. And it actually turned the farmers' mindsets around, and actually we had farmers requesting more land girls to work on the lands. Was it Lady Denman was the one that set up, she offered out her stately home to be the HQ for the Land Army, and to the point where she actually told out the outbuildings and things turned into uniform warehouses and stores. She had her own, she turned her gardens into Dig for Victory gardens, so she had all the vegetables and things growing there. And she even started up a Land Girl magazine, which allowed the girls to be kept in contact. So you had some girls that were on their own, some girls that were with groups of other girls, and they ended up having this magazine so that everyone knew what everyone else was up to the point they even had sort of agony aunt columns and everything else. But all this was done from her stately home. So the whole point of this weekend that we've done is to show our respect really for the ladies that actually worked the land. They had so many wonderful stories to tell. So we've got Sheila Thornton's diaries here from the day that she started with the Land Army on the 6th of March 1943. And when you consider sort of 1/3 of land girls came from inner cities and they never even saw what a cow looked like, and they were thrown into 4 weeks worth of training where they got taught how to milk a cow, how to fix a tractor, how to look after pigs, how to use a threshing machine so they didn't lose their arm, and all this sort of thing. And even as war went on, they had even less and less training. They're more sort of learning on the field themselves. So sort of the research that I wanted to do, it's all well and good sort of reading things out of a book and hearing the occasional snippets from some of the wonderful veterans that I've met. It's just actually being able to feel it and feel the aches and pains that they've done, feel the trials and tribulations that they've been doing. So for example, today we were up at 5:30, our alarm went off. We got up, got dressed, we were out, we had a cup of tea and we went out to milk the cows at 6:30. And by about 9:30 we then went out to sort out the cows' beds after we finished milking. So we sort of scraped them down, put fresh straw out. So these calves here, these are bulls, and they're only about 3 days old at the moment, and it's the first time that they've actually been hand fed. So they've been taken from their mum at the moment, all weaned, and they've just been fed a little bit extra by us today. And then behind them is Mum, and she ended up having her calf about an hour ago, so whilst we were here, the little brown bull ended up escaping into the pregnancy, or the maternity ward, shall we say, and ended up feeding off Mum, which delayed her birthing a little bit. But yeah, about an hour later or so, she ended up giving birth to another little bull. A little wobbly pin.
Come on, you can do it.
There we go.
Yay, well done. Look at you. Look at you. Oh, look. Hey, hello.
Mum's properly cleaned her eyes, hasn't she?
Welcome to it's going to something to drink. Go on, you can do it.
Other end. We had breakfast, then we got all the tractors sorted, and we had to move the pigs from where we were about to plough. So we've had the pigs there to help with the nutrients of the soil, as well as to help churn it up and things ready for ploughing. And then once we moved the pigs, which was entertaining to say the least, as they all decided to go every which direction.
Oh, come on you little bugger. How are we going to get you back out? Right, go on, go this way. Go on, it's open that way. Go on, shoo. Come on, this way, this way. Come on.
We then obviously fed the baby piglets as well. So these ones are our little baby piggies. These are about 2 months old, and just keep your eye on Mum, because she can be a bit protective over the pigs. These ones, we don't know what we've got, whether we've got boys or girls, so that's one job that we're going to be doing this weekend, is finding out how many girls, how many boys we've got, and also weighing them to see how heavy they are, so that they can be weaned at some point. So they normally get weaned about 8 weeks, which is in about 2 weeks' time. But it depends on how much milk Mum has got. Okay. Yeah, so obviously this is, depending on the farm that you went to, obviously if you had your pig farming, it's quite different from a dairy farm. With this farm that we're working on today, it's quite nice to have like a wide range of animals. So you've got your pigs, you've got your cows, you've got your chicks. Hopefully to have horse soon. So it's quite nice to actually get that different sort of broad scale of skills. But yeah, with piglets we'll feed them up, so we've got to be about 30 pounds before we can start weaning them. And that's normally because Mum hasn't got enough milk, especially with this brood. She has got a lot of piglets, so we have been feeding her up on sort of basically a porridge and some extra milk and things from the farm as well. And then we finally got the plough out and actually started ploughing. And it was sort of learning the tractor, learning the kinks, the actual difficulties with the tractor as well. It's not just a case of jumping on a tractor, strapping a plough to the back and cracking on with your job. It's your boots get stuck. You've got to sort of wiggle the gear, because it's not great to actually get it into gear. You actually end up, I've got a bruise coming up on the palm of my hand from where we had to literally sort of slam it into reverse or slam it into second and things like this to try and get it through the mud. And again, so it's been very wet over the last couple of weeks. So the ground was very churned up and it blocked the plough, which made it heavy, which then wouldn't let the tractor go. So we kept getting stuck. And it's those sorts of things that you wouldn't have known about if you just read it in a book. You just thought, oh, it's quite easy, just went up and down a field. But actually learning all these kinks, sort of trying to get it out, working out how to move the tractor, how to reverse it, and how to try and jump start it and things like this, it has actually sort of shown us how more difficult it was. It wasn't just a case of back-breaking work with picking up potatoes, things like this. It was all the other little bits to go with it. So I've been portraying a Langer now for about 8 years. So I'm 32 now, so since I was about 24. And it's quite an eye-opener when you actually see how I'm the age that the girls would have been. I'm probably getting to nearer the older age now, because the girls would have been sort of married off and having babies by about my age, really. But it's been a massive eye-opener to be able to do this experience working with the farmer, especially on a working farm as well. It's not just a case of ploughing up a field for the sake of it. It's actually doing it to plant potatoes. We've been milking cows for going into the shops and everything else. So it's actually it's been nice to work with a working farm and seeing how things have changed not necessarily that much really. Sort of, yes, you get more technology now, but back then you still had a lot of the technology that we had, but it just wasn't as sophisticated. So this has been a really good eye-opening experience, and we've got some meat to the bones. It's that experimental archaeology. It's like I said, it's all well and good reading it in a book and researching it, but until you actually feel the aches, feel the pain, feel the bruises, get tripped over by sheep and cows or pigs and all this sort of thing, you don't realise how dangerous a farm can be, especially sort of when you think about the girls that came from cities and they didn't know what a cow looked like, what they all of a sudden got dropped into. Obviously I've had 8 years of experience and knowledge and work and talking to people about it, but if you can imagine doing that from day dot when you didn't know what a cow looked like to all of a sudden having to reach in between its legs and milk it, and you then had to make sure that the cow was in a good mood for a start. But it's one of the things that is definitely a big eye-opener, and it's been really good fun, and if the farm will have me back, we might do it again.